The world of the bold and the beautiful has always been one where love, loss, and loyalty crash against one another like relentless waves. But nothing could have prepared anyone, not even the most hardened viewers, for the devastating turn that Liam Spencer's journey would soon take. What began as cautious hope had quickly unraveled into an unstoppable tragedy, pulling every character involved into a vortex of fear, anger, sorrow, and regret. It had once seemed, in the earliest whispers around Forrester Creations and among the close-knit family, that Liam might have a future after all. Like Eric Forrester before him, who had miraculously survived a dire diagnosis thanks to a revolutionary new therapy, there had been glimmers of optimism that Liam too might be saved. The doctors spoke in hopeful, measured tones. The treatment was experimental, yes, but promising. The risks were high, but so was the reward, life itself. But fate, it seemed, had other plans for Liam Spencer. The decline began slowly, almost imperceptibly, as Liam tried to resume a semblance of normal life. Despite the firm warnings from his doctors, despite the careful instructions spelled out in detail, Liam's nature stubborn, restless, unwilling to be defined by sickness drove him to push harder than he should have. He walked when he was told to rest. He lifted Hayes into his arms when he should have conserved his strength. He smiled and joked and pretended he wasn't breaking apart from the inside out, desperate to shield Steffi and his loved ones from the dark truth lurking behind his brave facade. Steffi Forrester, torn between her role as a mother, a caregiver, and a woman still deeply bonded to Liam by the scars of their shared past, had done everything she could. She had opened her home to him, transforming their living space into a quiet sanctuary where he could heal, could find comfort in familiarity, could feel the unconditional love of family. She fed him, monitored his medications, stayed awake through the night when he cried out in pain or simply stared out into the darkness, his mind consumed by fears he refused to voice. But no amount of care, no tenderness, no fierce devotion could hold back the storm gathering within Liam's body. The most devastating blow came not from what could be seen, but from what lay hidden within his blood. It was Finn, brilliant doctor and devoted husband, who discovered the horrifying truth. What had initially been thought to be a singular, albeit devastating, health crisis, the brain tumor, was in fact compounded by a second, stealthier enemy: tuberculosis. The blood work told the story plain and cruel. Liam Spencer had contracted tuberculosis, a highly contagious and dangerous disease, one that spread easily through close contact, especially through the air. Finn had stared at the test results in disbelief, his mind reeling as he double-checked every figure, every indicator, every possible alternative. But there was no mistake. Liam wasn't just battling for his own life anymore, he had become a walking threat to those he loved most. Panic and rage tore through Finn as he slammed down the file and rushed toward the door. Hayes, sweet, innocent Hayes, his son, had spent days playing near Liam, cuddling against him, breathing in the same air. Every second Hayes had been near Liam had been a second closer to potential catastrophe. Finn's heart raced faster than his feet as he tore through the streets back to the house. Bursting through the door, he barely managed to maintain composure as he found Steffi sitting beside Liam, brushing his hair back from his sweat-drenched forehead, whispering soft words of comfort that were now dangerous in ways she couldn't have imagined. Without hesitation, Finn grabbed Liam's arm, startling both Steffi and the weakened man. "You're coming with me," Finn barked, his voice harsher than he intended but fueled by sheer terror. "Now." Liam blinked up at him, confused, too weak to resist as Finn all but dragged him to his feet, ushering him toward the waiting car with Steffi running after them, pleading for an explanation he couldn't give. Not yet. There wasn't time. At the hospital, chaos unfolded rapidly. Liam was rushed into an isolation unit, nurses and doctors scrambling into protective gear, alarms blaring across sterile hallways. Steffi stood behind the glass walls, her hands trembling as she pressed them against the cold surface, watching helplessly as they prepared Liam for intensive care, separated from everyone he knew, from every human touch that might have soothed his fraying soul. Steffi's tears blurred her vision, but even through the distortion, she saw the agony in Liam's eyes. He was afraid, more afraid than she had ever seen him, and he was utterly, achingly alone. Inside the isolation room, Liam's condition worsened rapidly. The combination of psychological strain, physical pain, and now the isolation wreaked havoc on his already fragile body. His mind, already burdened by the tumor, struggled to make sense of his surroundings, and he was soon gripped by violent seizures that racked his body, each spasm tearing screams from Steffi's throat as she watched, helpless, as doctors and nurses fought to stabilize him. Finn, meanwhile, was consumed by a different agony. As he paced outside the room, waiting for word on Liam's condition, he knew he had no choice but to order immediate testing for Hayes. If the boy had been exposed, if Steffi's decision to bring Liam into their home had endangered their son's life, Finn didn't know if he could ever forgive her. When the preliminary results finally arrived, Finn tore open the envelope with trembling hands. His heart dropped into his stomach as he read the words that would shatter everything. Hayes had been exposed. Though it was too soon to tell if the boy had contracted tuberculosis himself, the risk was real and it was immediate. Protective measures had to be taken. Monitoring. Preventive treatment. Fear gripped Finn's heart in an iron fist. He stormed back to Steffi, his voice low and dangerous. "You should have listened," he said, the rage barely contained beneath his words. "You should have thought about Hayes. About our family." Steffi could only stare at him, the guilt washing over her in paralyzing waves. She had only wanted to help Liam. She had only wanted to save him. But in doing so, she had put her own child at risk, and in Finn's eyes, that was a betrayal nearly too great to bear. Inside the isolation room, Liam's body continued its losing battle. The seizures grew more frequent, more violent. His breathing became shallow, ragged. His heart, weakened by the relentless assault, began to fail. Doctors and nurses worked feverishly, shouting orders, administering drugs, performing CPR. But each minute that ticked by stole more of Liam away. Outside, Steffi sobbed against the glass, her hands sliding down the surface as her legs gave out beneath her. Finn, torn between his anger and his own grief, stood rigid beside her, his fists clenched so tightly his knuckles turned white. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the lead doctor stepped back, her face grim. The team fell still, their shoulders sagging in defeat. Liam Spencer was gone. The announcement shattered the world around them, the words echoing louder than any scream Steffi could have made. She collapsed fully to the ground, her cries of anguish ripping through the sterile hallway as Finn knelt beside her, his own face buried in his hands. The news spread quickly, cutting through Los Angeles like a knife through soft flesh. Friends, family, even rivals were left reeling. Liam, vibrant, stubborn, infuriatingly optimistic, was dead. Gone in a sterile hospital room, isolated from the people he loved most. And the repercussions would be far from over. Steffi would have to live with the knowledge that her decision had played a role in exposing Hayes to danger and perhaps in hastening Liam's end. Finn's trust in her, already shaken, might never fully recover. Hope Logan, once tethered to Liam by a deep and complicated love, would grieve the man who had been so entwined with her soul. And the Forrester and Spencer families, so often divided, would have to find some way to mourn a loss that touched them all. Yet, even amid the heartbreak, questions remained. Would Hayes, so young, so innocent, truly be spared the fate that had claimed Liam? Would Finn ever forgive Steffi or himself for the choices they made? Would the wounds opened by Liam's death ever truly heal? In the world of the bold and the beautiful, loss is never simple, grief is never clean, and consequences are never easily erased. And as the days stretched into weeks, as the mourning turned to anger and guilt and blame, the story of Liam Spencer's final days would continue to cast a long, dark shadow over everyone he left behind.
Oh,